everyone, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at automation testing.
Yeah, really excited to dive into this one.
Yeah, this should be a good one. So, we always say that testing is important.
Absolutely.
But testing can be really, really tedious.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you're doing things manually.
Right.
And so automation testing has kind of come on the scene.
Yeah, it's kind of a game changer.
As a way to really kind of streamline a lot of that and take some of the tedium out.
Definitely, and improve the quality and speed.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe let's start off by just kind of defining what automation testing actually is.
Sure. So at its core, automation testing is basically using software tools and scripts to run tests automatically.
Okay.
So instead of like a human tester, manually going through all these steps and checking things,
Right.
a script is doing it for you.
Okay, so it's like having a little robot.
Yeah.
Who's like your QA person who can do all the stuff for you.
Much faster and without getting tired.
Yeah, exactly. So that obviously has a lot of advantages in terms of speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
But what are some of the other advantages that automation testing brings to the table?
One of the biggest advantages is increased test coverage.
Okay.
So imagine you're building like a web application.
Right.
Manually testing it on like every single browser and operating system combination.
Yeah, that would be impossible.
Would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But with automation, you can have tools like Selenium that can run the same tests on, dozens of different combinations at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So it just massively increases the amount of testing you can do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine it also probably reduces human error.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we all make mistakes, especially when we're doing something repetitive.
Right.
So if you have this automated system that's doing it, it's going to do it the same way every single time.
Exactly. And that's why it's so valuable in like a CI/CD pipeline.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because I know that's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
What is CI/CD, and how does automation testing fit into that?
So CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous delivery.
Okay.
And basically, it's this idea that you're constantly integrating your code changes.
Right.
And then delivering them to your users as quickly and seamlessly as possible.
Gotcha.
And automation testing is a key part of that because it allows you to run tests automatically every time you make a change.
Oh, okay.
So you can catch bugs early and prevent them from making it into production.
So it's kind of like a safety net.
Yeah, okay.
That's making sure that everything is working properly before it actually gets out to the users.
Right.
That's really cool. So it sounds like there's a lot of advantages to automation testing.
Yeah, definitely.
But I imagine there's also some challenges.
Of course there are always challenges.
What are some of the challenges that people might face when they're trying to implement automation testing?
So one of the biggest challenges is the initial setup.
Okay.
You have to choose the right tools you have to set up your framework. And that can be a bit daunting, especially if you're new to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine you probably need some technical expertise as well.
Yeah, you definitely need some coding skills.
Okay.
To write and maintain the automation scripts.
And not every test can be automated, right?
Right. There are some types of testing that are better suited for manual testing.
Okay.
Like exploratory testing or usability testing, where you really need a human's perspective.
So it's not like automation testing is going to replace human testers completely.
No, definitely not.
It's more like a tool that can augment their work
Exactly.
and make them more efficient.
Right.
Gotcha. So even though there are some challenges, it sounds like the benefits of automation testing outweigh the drawbacks.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
So where should someone start if they're interested in implementing automation testing in their own projects?
Well, the first step is to identify what to automate.
Okay.
It's tempting to want to automate everything, but that's usually not the best approach.
Right.
You want to focus on the tests that are the most time-consuming or the most repetitive.
Okay, so the things that are kind of a pain to do manually,
Exactly.
those are the things you should automate first.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you've identified what to automate, what's the next step?
Then you need to choose the right tools.
Okay.
And there are a ton of different tools out there.
Yeah, it seems like there's a new tool popping up every day.
Right. So it's important to do your research and choose the tools that are best suited for your needs.
Okay, so how do you know which tools are right for you?
Well, it depends on a lot of factors, like the type of application you're testing,
Okay.
the programming languages your team is familiar with,
Right.
and your budget, of course.
Yeah. Budget's always a consideration.
Always.
So are there any tools that you would recommend for someone who's just getting started with automation testing?
Sure. For web application testing, Selenium is a great place to start.
Okay.
It's an open source tool, so it's free to use.
That's always good.
and it has a huge community and a lot of documentation.
Okay, cool.
So it's relatively easy to learn.
Nice. And what about for API testing?
For API testing, Postman is a popular choice.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it has a really user-friendly interface.
Okay.
And it makes it really easy to send requests and inspect responses.
Gotcha. So we've got Selenium for web apps, Postman for APIs.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
Well, once you've chosen your tools, you need to set up your automation framework.
Okay, so what is an automation framework?
Basically, it's a set of guidelines and best practices for writing and running your automation tests.
Okay, so it's kind of like a blueprint for how you're going to do your automation.
Right.
And why is it important to have a framework?
Well, it helps to keep your tests organized and maintainable.
Okay.
And it makes it easier to collaborate with other team members.
So it's kind of like having a shared understanding
Right.
of how you're going to approach automation.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So how do you choose the right framework?
Well, there are a lot of different frameworks out there.
Right.
And the right one for you will depend on the specific needs of your project.
Okay.
Some popular frameworks include data-driven frameworks,
Okay.
keyword-driven frameworks, and hybrid frameworks.
So there's a lot of different options.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's important to do your research
Definitely.
and choose the one that's right for you.
Right.
Awesome. So once you have your framework in place, what's the next step?
Then it's time to start writing your scripts.
Okay.
And this is where your coding skills will come in handy.
So you're actually writing code
Yeah.
to tell the computer what to do.
Right.
And what are some of the things you need to keep in mind when you're writing your scripts?
Well, you want to make sure your scripts are modular and reusable.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means that you break your scripts down into smaller pieces that can be reused in different tests.
Okay, so it's kind of like building blocks.
Exactly.
You can build different things with the same blocks.
Right.
Gotcha. And why is that important?
Well, it makes your scripts easier to maintain and update.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about documentation?
Documentation is super important.
Okay.
You want to make sure your scripts are well documented.
Right.
So that other people can understand them.
So it's not just for you, it's for anyone who might have to work on these scripts in the future.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So it sounds like there's a lot to think about when you're implementing automation testing.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to learn.
But it also sounds like it's a really powerful tool
Oh, absolutely.
that can really improve the quality of your software.
Definitely.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've talked about what automation testing is, why it's important, some of the challenges, and how to get started.
Right.
In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to dive deeper into some of the specific types of automation testing.
Yeah, we'll look at things like unit testing, integration testing, end-to-end testing.
Cool. And we'll also talk about some of the best practices for automation testing. So stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. So last time we talked about the basics of automation testing. Now I'm kind of curious to hear more about these cutting-edge trends that are happening in this field. Like, where's this all going?
Yeah, well, one of the most exciting trends is the use of AI in automation testing.
Okay, so like AI is writing our test scripts for us.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite that simple yet.
Right.
But AI can definitely help us to create and execute tests more efficiently.
Okay, so how does that work?
Well, for example, imagine you have a really complex web application with tons of different user flows.
Right.
An AI-powered tool could analyze those flows and identify potential problem areas.
Okay.
And then it could actually generate test cases that target those areas specifically.
Wow, so it's kind of like having an AI QA person
Right.
who can just like look at your application and know exactly where the weak spots are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can save a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, that makes sense. What other trends are you seeing?
Another big trend is codeless automation.
Okay, what is that?
So codeless automation tools basically allow you to create and run tests without writing any code.
Oh, wow. So you don't have to be a programmer to use them.
Right, exactly. And that's really opening up automation testing to a wider audience.
That's really cool. But can codeless tools really handle the complexity of real-world applications?
Yeah, they've come a long way in recent years.
Okay.
And now there's some really powerful codeless tools that can handle pretty much anything you throw at them.
So it's kind of like the democratization of automation testing.
Exactly.
Anyone can do it now.
Right.
That's awesome. So we've got AI, we've got codeless automation. What else?
Well, another trend that's really gaining momentum is the integration of automation testing with DevOps.
Okay, we talked about DevOps a little bit in the last episode, but can you remind us what it is?
Sure. So DevOps is basically a set of practices that aim to automate and streamline the software development process.
Okay.
And automation testing is a natural fit for DevOps.
How so?
Well, because DevOps is all about speed and efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And automation testing can help us to achieve both of those things.
So it's kind of like automation testing is becoming a core part of the DevOps workflow.
Exactly.
What are the benefits of that?
Well, it means that we can test our code more frequently and more thoroughly. And that helps us to catch bugs earlier and prevent them from making it into production.
So it's kind of like a continuous quality assurance process.
Right.
That's really cool. So it sounds like the future of automation testing is pretty bright.
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time to be in this field.
With all these new technologies and trends emerging, it seems like there's a lot of potential for innovation.
Definitely.
So what does this all mean for the role of the human tester?
Well, I think it means that the role of the tester is evolving.
Okay, in what way?
Well, testers are going to need to be more skilled in areas like automation and AI.
Okay.
But they're also going to need to be more strategic in their thinking.
So it's not just about writing scripts and running tests.
Right.
It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. And being able to advocate for quality throughout the entire software development process.
That's interesting. So it sounds like the role of the tester is actually becoming more important, not less.
I think so, yeah.
Even with all this automation.
Right, because at the end of the day, it's still humans who are responsible for ensuring the quality of our software.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned earlier that automation testing and RPA are related but distinct.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation.
Okay.
And it's basically a way to automate business processes that are typically done by humans.
Okay, so like what kind of processes are we talking about?
Well, things like data entry, invoice processing, customer service tasks.
Okay, so tasks that are very repetitive and rule-based.
Exactly.
So how is that different from automation testing?
Well, automation testing is focused on verifying the functionality of software applications.
Right.
While RPA is focused on automating business processes.
So it's kind of like automation testing is about making sure that the software works properly.
Right.
While RPA is about making the business run more efficiently.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So RPA is not really about testing per se?
No, not really, although there is some overlap.
Okay.
Because, you want to make sure that your automated processes are working correctly.
Right.
So there is a bit of testing involved there.
But the main focus is on automation.
Right.
Gotcha. So it sounds like both automation testing and RPA are really powerful tools.
Yeah, they are.
That can help organizations to improve their efficiency and effectiveness.
Definitely.
So before we move on, I'm curious to hear some real-world examples of how automation testing is being used today.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Like, how are companies actually using this stuff?
Well, in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to look at some specific examples of automation testing in action.
Okay, cool.
We'll see how companies are using automation to test everything from web applications to mobile apps to APIs.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. All right, so we've talked about the theory and the trends. Now I want to see how this all plays out in the real world.
Yeah, let's get concrete.
Like, how are companies actually using automation testing to make a difference?
Well, one of the most striking examples is in e-commerce. Think of a site like Amazon.
Oh, yeah, massive scale.
Millions of products, countless transactions every single day.
It's mind-boggling how they manage it all.
And that's where automation testing is essential. They use it to simulate thousands of users browsing, searching, adding items to their carts, going through checkout.
Oh, wow. So they're not just testing like one thing at a time.
No, they're testing the entire system under realistic conditions.
That makes sense because, a single bug could cost them a lot of money.
Absolutely. One small error in the checkout process could lead to lost sales, frustrated customers, damage to their reputation.
Yeah, no one wants that.
Yeah.
So automation helps them catch these issues before they impact real users.
Exactly. It's like a 247 quality control team, constantly making sure everything is running smoothly.
Okay, so e-commerce is a no-brainer. But where else is this making a big impact?
Well, the financial industry is another area where automation testing is critical.
Yeah, those systems are dealing with a lot of sensitive data.
Absolutely. Security and reliability are paramount.
One tiny glitch could have huge consequences.
Exactly. So they use automation to test everything from routine transactions to more complex scenarios like fraud detection.
So they're basically trying to break their own systems.
In a way, yes. They're trying to anticipate every possible vulnerability and make sure their applications can withstand any attack.
Wow, that's intense. And what about other industries?
Well, healthcare is another area where automation is playing an increasingly important role.
Yeah, the stakes are pretty high there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about medical devices, electronic health record systems, telehealth platforms. The accuracy and reliability of these systems can literally mean the difference between life and death.
That's a sobering thought.
It is,
Yay.
but it's also incredibly inspiring to see how automation is being used to improve healthcare outcomes.
So they're testing everything from the user interface to the underlying algorithms.
Right. They need to make sure that the software is intuitive, easy to use, and most importantly, that it produces accurate and reliable results.
Okay, so we've seen how this plays out in different industries, but let's talk about our listeners who are eager to apply these concepts to their own projects. What advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't try to boil the ocean.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means don't try to automate everything at once. Start small. Identify a few key areas where manual testing is taking up a lot of time or where errors are common.
So pick your battles strategically.
Exactly. Once you have some early wins under your belt, you can start to expand your automation efforts.
And what about choosing the right tools?
Yeah, that's crucial. There are so many tools out there, it can be overwhelming. Do your research, consider your team's skills and the specific needs of your project.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Absolutely. There are tons of online resources, communities, forums where you can connect with other automation experts and get advice.
That's great. And what about building an automation framework?
That's another essential step. A framework provides structured guidelines, best practices for your automation efforts. It's like laying a strong foundation for a house.
I like that analogy. So what are some of the key principles to keep in mind when building a framework?
Well, modularity and reusability are essential. Break down your scripts into smaller independent units that can be reused across multiple tests.
So it's kind of like building with Lego blocks. You can create different structures using the same basic components.
Exactly. And don't forget about documentation. Clear, concise documentation makes your code easier to understand, maintain, and troubleshoot.
It's like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for yourself and others who might work on your code in the future.
And finally, collaboration is key. Automation testing is not a solo activity. Work closely with developers, testers, other stakeholders to make sure your efforts are aligned with the overall project goals.
So it's about fostering a culture of shared responsibility for quality.
Exactly. When everyone is working together towards a common goal, that's when automation testing can truly shine.
Well, I think this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the basic concepts to real-world examples and future trends. I'm feeling really inspired.
It's been a pleasure sharing this journey with you and our listeners.
And to all of you listening out there, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and motivation to embrace the power of automation testing. Remember, start small, choose the right tools, build a solid framework, and collaborate with your team. The future of software quality is in your hands. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.